Under the ancient cosmos. The book of fate slowly opens. Chaos Witch's revenge. A legend is about to unfold. As the solemn trumpet sounds, the camera traverses time and space, witnessing the magnificent epic of Morgan and Lucifer fighting side by side. Part 4. I wasn't under long before hearing two voices discussing me quietly. Does this happen often? Only when she's trying to hold back the chaos magic and not destroy everything. Which seems to happen more often now that you're here. It was Cal's voice, but speaking out loud instead of silently in my head. Confused, I wanted to open my eyes, but I felt like my eyelids each weighed a ton, well beyond my ability to lift. I don't think you can blame me for this one. The devil whistled quietly. That family of hers is something, huh? They make even demons seem friendly. This is nothing for them. I felt a cool hand on my forehead. The grade marking fading at the touch. The suffering they put her through. It's a miracle that this world exists at all. He wasn't wrong. How many times during my childhood did he pull me back from the edge? From releasing all the chaos within me to destroy myself and the world with me. Why are they like this? I didn't want Cal to have to answer. I forced my eyes open. You heard what they called me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a golden-haired figure disappear. I rubbed my eyes, thinking it might have been an illusion. Are you okay? His voice was silent in my head. Once more I sighed, putting the memories the ring had forced into my head aside. Don't worry, my power is suppressed, Cal. That's not what you were the one who asked. Lucifer. Did you hear the name they gave me after taking my family name? He nodded. Mother's bane. My conception was warped with chaos magic. I smiled grimly. My bastard of a father wanted to end Morgana's line and gain a massive reward at the same time. You see, chaos magic can be grown within a soul, but it always comes at a cost. Lucifer studied me carefully. What cost? The souls of others, preferably the powerful. My mother was a young Nave, witch who refused to hate my father even as her child infected with chaos slowly sucked the life from her within her womb. Of course I was always meant to die. Destroyed by chaos. A sacrifice to increase my father's power while ending Morgana's line with my death. But I took advantage of the weakness created in her father, as he had used almost all of his chaos magic for the sacrifice, and left him. Forming a pact with Morgan instead. I smiled. Cal is an ultimate weapon of light, of order. The antithesis to the chaos magic which wants to consume me and the world around me. The power given to me by that pact balances me out. Allows me to survive. My grin became cruel, with the added bonus that my father was greatly weakened by not being able to reclaim his chaos magic, as well as losing Cal. We would have killed him too, if he hadn't hidden deeply to recover like the rat he is. Lucifer stared at us both. Who is your father? Morgan. The enemy who wanted to personally end Morgana's line. The master of Excalibur. The man who lusted for such great power that he would sacrifice his own child. I chuckled. Are you sure you don't know? I thought Arthur was the master of Excalibur. Cal interrupted. The devil, he was a good man. If a little Nave, he trusted the wrong man, and ended up being the first soul to be sacrificed to the chaos magic. Wait, you couldn't mean? Lucifer turned slightly pale, his red eyes widening with realization. I laughed softly before standing up. We've wasted enough time, let's go to the library. He stood up with me, his eyes still worried. But your condition? It was just the tactile memories from my mother's ring. I stared down at the metal object still in my hand, before opening it slowly and letting it fall silently to the carpet beneath my feet. Lucifer looked down at it. If it's your mother's, don't you want it? No, I turned away. and walked towards the door. I'd rather honor her memory by sending her murderer over to apologize to her in pieces. We headed towards the library. We snuck by the guards standing watch outside the forbidden library, as well as bypassed all the magical wards with surprising ease. I'm glad we had you here, Lucifer. My standard magic is too weak to deal with this sort of stuff. And the chaos magic tends to be an all-or-nothing type deal. I'm glad we didn't have to obliterate the guards and entranceway just to get in. How surprising, devil. You can be useful for something, Lucifer sighed. You guys really have to stop acting surprised every single time I'm useful. Like I'm some sort of child I'm the king of hell. Of course. Next time we need to open a door we'll definitely call you. You are definitely the king of opening doors. I hate you both so much. The forbidden library was enormous. The size of multiple skyscrapers melded together. Kept hidden through ancient magics that bended space. Every spare surface was covered in shelves packed with books. Scrolls and tablets, some glowed strange colors. Some flickering in and out of sight. Small magical platforms moved independently around the library, transporting items in and out as they were requested. I looked around feeling mildly impressed as always. Before taking one of the transports over and heading to the area dedicated to chaos magic. Will they even have something helpful? I shrugged at the devil's question. I would hope so. I quickly found the documents pertaining to major events in the last few months. Within it was a map that detailed the disappearance of witches over the past year. The seemingly patternless dots scattered across the city map glowed in a dull green light. Lucifer sucked in a breath. So many. How has this gone unnoticed for so long? It was perfectly calculated to how many each race was willing to overlook. Spread across the demons, angels, and witches. Who knows how many normal humans and supernatural creatures have been lost as well. Turning to the devil, who stood beside me with an irritated expression, I prompted him carefully. Can you add the locations of the disappearances you know about as well? Fine, with a wave of his hand. Red and blue dots also appeared along the map. The red are mine. The blue are those I know about that heaven has lost. With the additional data, it became increasingly clear that there was a pattern to the locations of those who disappeared. A center of the chaos, we should find him there. I pointed at the location, frowning. But that only narrows it down to a whole section of the city. He could be hiding anywhere within. I could have the demons search all the houses. He would just destroy any that entered his territory. We'll just have to do it personally. But that could take forever, maybe not, I grinned. After all, I can't help but wonder about my aunt's special guest. You think the sword should be this way? A familiar voice spoke up from around the corner. Speak of the devil. Lucifer raised an eyebrow. Pardon. Not you, just an expression. Why does this important guest of yours want this sword anyways? If he's so powerful he could just take it himself. A petulant, spoiled voice asked. The sound of two sets of footsteps growing closer. Arena, what's she doing here? Never mind that. We need to hide, I whispered back. Sure. Lucifer shrugged, snapping his fingers and activating an invisibility spell. The devil was useful again. Shut up. Aunt Margaret and Arena entered the room before Lucifer could argue further. I told you, foolish girl. It would be bad if the council were to realize we were working with him. Given our bad history, and besides, I'd rather he not see that cursed girl until he's finished the ceremony at the full moon tonight. Finish the ceremony? My fists tightened at my side, shaking with rage. Why can't we just kill her? Arena rolled her eyes. It's not like she would be difficult to get rid of. We need a backup plan, in case this new cooperation falls through. My Aunt Margaret's answer caused me to stiffen into place, clutching the new map in my arms. She may be weak and useless, but she's the only one who can continue Morgana's line. Worthless trash, don't be so upset, darling. She's not worth your time or energy. Let's get the sword. As they passed out of the room, Lucifer and I flickered back into sight. Killing time, ignoring Cal. I turned towards the devil. We need to steal the sword and replace it with a fake. How good is your illusion magic? The devil grinned, his plain disguised features melting back into his original insultingly handsome look. I could convince half of heaven to follow me. You think I can't fool a couple of witches? I'm impressed if this keeps up, little devil. I might even consider accepting you as my apprentice. Who would want to be your apprentice? You stupid overgrown knife, Morgan. The devil is calling me names. Destroy him with your chaos magic, please, I chuckled. Aren't you supposed to be helping me restrain my chaos magic? Desperate times, let's go steal that sword. It was surprisingly easy. The two women got into several useless arguments along the way to the weapons section, allowing Lucifer and I to sneak past while invisible and reach it first. As we entered the room with countless weapons on display, Lucifer glanced around, seeming impressed. Which one do you think they were after? The only one my father would need if he wanted to have a weapon against chaos magic. I pointed to a sword tucked away in the back corner. A sword of order, like Cal. Oh please. That hack is nothing like my great and wonderful self. Just a generic magic sword. Not even a soul to guide it. I raised a hand. Chaos magic destroying the magical chain, keeping it in place. Picking up the sword, I gave a light practice swing. Nodding at the light weight, it's still a good sword. It's considered legendary overseas. Known as the Sword of Light. It's defeated multiple world-ending foes. I am still better here. I tossed the sword to Lucifer before Cal could get too nervous. To replace the ones the chaos monsters destroyed before. This one can actually fight them. He gripped the handle, looking the weapon over briefly before strapping it to his side. I like how it doesn't talk constantly, hey. I grabbed a random sword and placed it where the Sword of Light had been stored. All right, you can cast illusion now. With the trap in place, all that was left was to follow my aunt and cousin as they led us right towards the center of town. We were right. They are heading right towards the location we had marked on the map. They must know where he is, I nodded. I shouldn't be surprised. But I still cannot believe that those of Morgana's name would associate with him at all. Lucifer glanced at me. But didn't your mother? He was disguised, I interrupted, frowning. She didn't realize who she was being tricked by even until the end. I'm sorry, don't be. The line of Morgana has been twisted for too long. I sighed. They rely on the name of a witch that's been dead for centuries, while forgetting that the enemy she fought never rested. Never disappeared, Morgan. The line should have ended with my mother. But instead it will end with me. Lucifer looked as if he were going to argue, but shook his head, falling silent instead. Fortunately at that time we reached a large abandoned warehouse. The sun setting behind us as the two witches knocked on the door, giving a password to the stone-faced guard who opened it to be let inside. I glanced at the fading sunlight as we slipped in behind them, remembering their words. He'll finish the ceremony at the full moon tonight. There wasn't much time left. My heart pounding in my ears. I followed them deeper into the warehouse, pushing back the chaos magic that threatened to surface with my uncontrolled emotions. Are you going to be okay? Cal's voice whispered in my ear for only me to hear. I nodded silently. I'll be there with you, I promise. We'll kill him for everything he's done. I kept moving. It was time to see my father again. Part 5. We entered the main area of the warehouse. The space much larger than what it seemed from the outside. The walls extended into darkness, making it impossible to see what was hidden in the shadows beyond. Ahead of us glowed 2 candles to either side of a golden throne. "Welcome, Margaret," a strong, low voice spoke up from the figure slouched on that throne, as he lazily turned a hand around, making the flames from the candles dance with the movement. The moving lights occasionally lit up his features, giving me the first good look at my greatest enemy. The murderer of my mother. The one who inflicted the magic that could destroy the world on me. My father, his face still was young, without wrinkles or lines. The features smooth and regular. His hair was an ordinary brown, looking slightly unkempt, falling over his face and forcing him to brush it back. He would be considered handsome by many, if not a little forgettable except for his eyes. The centuries he had lived showed in his eyes, bright green glowing with power. His eyes seemed to stare right through every person, judging them of their worth, making you feel unprotected, weak. Margaret and her daughter curtsied deeply in front of him, cold sweat breaking out on both their faces. It seemed they felt his power even more strongly, facing the full force of his gaze. "My lord, we brought the sword you requested." Margaret held up the sword that Lucifer had enchanted to look like the sword of light in front of her. Her hands trembling, he didn't reach out to take it. My nails bit into my palms, as I forced myself not to throw myself forward, putting my thoughts into order. I would need my magic, but it had to be controlled. Otherwise it would destroy everything. "Are you really sincere about allying yourself with me?" Which his voice was a whisper, but seemed like a shout despite the large space. My lord. Margaret seemed confused. "Did you change your mind? Given your family's history with me?" He smiled, the expression threatening. "Did you decide to betray me to earn points with the rest of Morgana?" The bitch's pitiful line. She panicked at his words. "I would never betray you. I swear I brought the sword just like you asked." He snapped his fingers, and a purple smoke enveloped the sword in her hands, destroying it. "Chaos magic, it's powerful, but still not pure like your magic." Cal's voice reassured me. Margaret screamed in pain, clutching her hands to her chest. Through her fingers blood seeped, staining her dress and dripping to the floor. His magic had corroded her hands as well. "This is a fake, irregular weapon under an illusion, not the true sword of light." The man stood up, glancing around the room. My hackles rose as his gaze fixed on us standing behind them. "Despite the invisibility spell. And it seems you brought friends." When no one spoke up, he sighed. Now. Uninvited guests. Isn't it better if you just show yourself?" Lucifer sighed, waving his hand as he became visible, leaving me still out of sight. "Your insight is as keen as ever, you old bastard." The man's eyebrows raised in surprise. "Lucifer, the king of hell. What brings you to my humble home? You really are going to act innocent after sacrificing my minions to feed your chaos magic?" Lucifer chuckled. "You always did love the dramatic." "Merlin," my father smiled as the devil spoke his name. Merlin, the great magician. The ancient power that ushered in an age of light and justice. A grade A magician, a man of legends. A murdering madman. Can't you be reasonable?" Merlin smiled widely. "It's just a few demons here and there. I'll gladly compensate you however you like. And if I ask for your life?" Lucifer's eyes seemed to freeze the room with their coldness. Merlin didn't flinch. "Then you'll be destroyed. It's a much better deal to bargain with me, I assure you." There was a silence as the devil looked him up and down, seemingly seriously considering his offer. "If he betrays you," Cal sounded slightly worried. I shook my head, smiling. "No thanks." Lucifer grinned. "I already got a better offer." "A better offer? From who?" I cancelled the invisibility magic that was still on me. And stepped forward. The sound of my footsteps echoing loudly in the empty space. Margaret and Irena stared at me in shock as I walked past them. Irena managing to lift a hand to point, stuttering. "Why you?" Merlin stuttered me carefully, frowning. "Who are you?" I laughed out loud. Placing a hand on my heart. "What? You don't recognize me?" I pretended to wipe a tear away. "I'm hurt." He stared silently at me, refusing to answer. "Well then. I guess it's up to me to make the introductions." I bowed slightly, keeping my hand on my heart. "My name is Morgan, last daughter of Morgana's line." Merlin's eyes widened as I straightened up. Still smiling. "Nice to meet you, father," I shrugged. "Although technically I have come to kill you to avenge my mother and satisfy my own personal hatred." "So nice probably isn't the right word." The child. He whispered, "I heard you were weak, useless. Any chaos magic that you absorbed should have drained your magic and life source by now." Looking me up and down, he shook his head. "You don't seem weak, that's the problem with rumors." "Father dearest," I tapped my face with a finger. "You end up with inaccurate information." Merlin's gaze snapped to the two women kneeling off to the side. "You betrayed me." "No, my lord, she is useless. She's just a grade E." Margaret was panicking, waving her hands wildly as she spoke. "We've tested her multiple times." "Perhaps a bluff then," with his quiet murmur. He waved a hand. And multiple large men wearing armor, their eyes glowing a bright purple, stepped out of the shadows. Swords drawn and pointed towards me. "Enchanted soldiers," I sighed. "Looks like we are being tested." Cal, his mistake. "Want help?" Lucifer called out, his hand on his sword. "No need for just this much." I raised a hand and slowly released my magic. The floor tried to warp away from me, as reality and fate were bent and broken in the space around me. Merlin's eyes narrowed, shocked, and he lifted his hand to call his magical soldiers back. Too late. With a grim smile, I pushed my magic forward, and silently each knight faded out of existence, leaving not even the slightest trace behind. It also latched onto the golden throne, forcing him to his feet as the seat disappeared out from under him. Chaos magic. Merlin covered his eyes with his hand. I should have guessed when it never returned to me. The backlash at that time was too great, though. I had no choice but to go into hiding for my own safety. "Great, glad you have that figured out. Any last words before you die?" "Don't be arrogant, girl," he snapped. "You may have stolen some of my chaos magic, but I've regained plenty since." He spread his arms, and a purple smoke surrounded him, tearing apart the space in between us. "I've been sacrificing plenty of souls to grow my powers, and what little you should have retained is no match." The smoke enveloped Aunt Margaret and Irena as they tried to scream in terror. "My lord, what are you doing?" His gaze was merciless. "You were always meant to feed my power." As if I would let anyone who claimed kinship with that bitch Morgana survive. The two faded into the smoke, which seemed to grow stronger and thicker as it absorbed their fate. My father grinned at me. "And now with you here, I can take back some power, complete the ceremony, and perfect my magic once more." Strong words for a dead man. "You may have chaos magic, child, but so do I. You can't kill me with it. And you don't have any magical powers other than that. If you are a grade E witch." He waved his hand once more, and countless monsters of chaos appeared, their glowing purple eyes fixed on me. "I'm one of the greatest wizards in the world, with the highest caliber of magic, and you are the last pathetic girl in a worthless line. All alone with no way out." I smiled, and he stepped back, startled at my reaction. "Who said I was alone? Now can I help finally?" My hand slapped to my chest. My palm connected with the golden tattoo beneath my shirt. The mark of Excalibur. From within my soul I pulled out the golden sword. And rushed into the nearest group of monsters. Lucifer pulled out the real sword of light. And with a happy laugh launched himself into the air to land beside me. Fighting back to back. The creatures screamed with terror, and the two swords of light and order swept through them, forcing them out of existence. Finally I get a chance to show off. Lucifer muttered beside me, swinging his sword in broad sweeping strokes, taking out multiple creatures with each attack. You realize that my master is killing twice as many as you. Right? Cal let out a beams of light as I fought, taking down lines of the chaos monsters with each passing second. Merlin watched the fight with an increasingly pale face, backing away slowly. No, it can't be Excalibur. You chose how the number of monsters was dwindling. And soon, Lucifer was enough to face off the remnant as I approached my father. Cal's blade resting lightly on my shoulder. Why so shocked? I grinned. Just because you aren't worthy doesn't mean others can't be. Why you? His eyes darted between myself and the glowing golden blade. You didn't just keep a remnant of my old power. Did you? You have all of it. He backed away further. That's enough to destroy the universe and everything in it. I shrugged, swinging the sword behind me, cutting through a monster that had tried to sneak up on me while my attention was focused on my father. Yes, your point. Merlin was backed against a wall, trapped. And I pressed the tip of the golden blade in my hand against his chest, right over his heart. To think a child I made as a simple means to destroy Morgana's line would be this powerful. He muttered, looking at me with different eyes than before. A calculating gaze. No, maybe it was meant to be. Both of our blood, chaos magic and Excalibur. You're beyond what I could have ever dreamed. I put more pressure on the sword, and the tip slowly sank into his chest. He didn't react, still staring at me with an avid look. We'll work together. We can rule everything. Heaven, hell, magic, order, all would have to bow before us. His smile was fanatical, a hand reaching out to touch my face gently, as if I were truly precious to him, my daughter. His magic reached out, pulling at my emotions, making me want to drop my weapon. Follow him to the ends of the earth. You'll be safe with him. The magic whispered in my ear. You'll finally have a family, a home, Morgan. Cal whispered my name urgently, but the magic drowned his voice out. A part of me screamed to give in. The girl who had grown up hated, looked down on. A worthless child who had killed her mother at birth. A powerless witch in a family of powerful magic, with only myself and a magic sword to depend on. I wanted to say yes. I smiled, my hand wrapped tightly around the golden handle of the sword. Sounds like a great offer. Merlin's face lit up. Just one problem. Thud. Cal's blade pierced through the wizard's chest, striking the wall behind him. I don't want to rule heaven, hell, or anything else. Blood dripped around the blade, pooling on the floor at our feet before disappearing into purple smoke. I poured my chaos magic into the wound, trying to destroy everything that Cal's magic wouldn't touch. I'm not seeking to be a legend or to save the world. The wound in his chest was turning purple, as the chaos magic within him rejected the presence of ultimate weapon of fate and order. I let go of my normal restrictions. I placed on my magic, pouring everything I had into him. Focused on destruction. I'm just a grade E witch, a mortal trying to live a normal life and pay rent. He shook his head slightly as if confused, his green eyes fixed on my own. Oh. And of course avenge my mother's death. I twisted the blade and he let out a grunt. Purple smoke pouring from his lips. You'll regret this promise. My father closed his eyes, and his body faded into nothingness. the purple smoke dissipating into thin air. I looked around frowning. My chaos magic pulsing in my blood. Roaring in my ears. Cal, is he gone? I think so. I don't sense him. Good, I sighed with relief. Taking a deep breath. The chaos magic pushed outwards against my control. Wanting to consume everything. I had let out too much. Relaxed my control too far in my desire to destroy him. I closed my eyes, fighting it with all my strength. Knowing that if I lost control I could unleash everything. Destroy everything. Morgan, what's wrong? I shook my head slightly, unable to answer. Slipping down to the ground as all of my strength focused inward. Cal, what's going on? Lucifer's tired voice spoke up. Concerned. She's losing her chaos magic. That's bad. Isn't it? Like world-ending bad? Yeah. It's world-ending bad. Quick, stab me into her chest. I need to help her control it. Stab her. Are you sure? Won't that kill her? Do it. Despite the internal battle going on, I felt the tip of Cal's blade push into my chest over his mark. Cal's power merging with my own. Cal, I felt tired. Overwhelmed. The chaos within me eroding at my thoughts. My fate disappearing into nothingness. The voice that had been with me since my earliest memory spoke up inside my head. It's okay, Morgan, we'll seal it together. He joined me in the fight. His strength bolstering my own slowly, painfully. Together, we pushed back the power of chaos and locked it within my soul once more. See, that wasn't so bad. Easy for you to say. I smiled silently, letting go of my consciousness in my relief. Lucifer stared down at the smiling, unconscious girl. Feeling unnerved. I've been at the top for too long, he admitted quietly to himself with a grin. I forgot what it was like to face something stronger. And Morgan was stronger than him. Having seen her wield Excalibur along with her magic. Equal parts order and chaos. A force that could destroy the whole universe. He couldn't help but feel weak in front of her. He watched her sleep, considering his options. Part of him wanted to take her out. Destroy the threat while she was helpless. But the rest? It's not bad to have something this fun around. He grinned. Besides, I never was one for playing it safe. Hey, little devil, why are you smiling? Don't even think about touching my master while she's asleep. Cal appeared in his human form beside Morgan. His golden eyes glaring fiercely. Lucifer shrugged. Don't worry, I have no intention of harming her. At least not anytime soon. Thinking for a moment, he looked at the sword, confused. Why do you only take on a human appearance when she's unconscious? To his surprise, the sword blushed. None of your business. Looking down at the girl, he muttered, what if she doesn't like how I look? Lucifer laughed. Well, she called me hideous. So you may be right to worry about her aesthetic taste. With a groan he stretched, frowning as his multiple small injuries ached. Those chaos monsters were pretty powerful. No wonder my minions never stood a chance. Or you're just weak. Rolling his eyes, Lucifer turned away, looking around the empty warehouse and shrugging. I guess we are done here. Cal stood up, holding Morgan carefully in his arms. I'll tell her your goodbyes once she wakes up. Have fun back in hell. Goodbyes, the devil laughed. No need to bother, see you later. And with that he was gone, leaving an increasingly nervous magical sword staring after him while clutching his master to his chest. Later? What does he mean later? What a terrible thought. Epilogue. I was having DJVU clutching a jar of pickles. I stared at what should have been my empty bed with a forlorn expression. What are you doing here? The devil grinned as he flipped through my book, once again losing my place in the story to my dismay. I had a favor to ask you. See, I told you. Cal spoke up with an irritated voice. This is what happens when you make friends with weak creatures like him. They always want favors. Shut up, you stupid knife. Lucifer grinned, setting down the book and spreading his hands. You see, one of my old buddies in the Heavenly Army contacted me. So you came to brag that you still have friends. Good for you. With your terrible personality it must be hard. Cal and I clapped proudly, groaning with frustration. Lucifer pushed back his hair and continued. Ignoring us, he saw something weird. An unexplainable magic. Something that seemed to destroy things without rhyme or reason. I stared at him with confusion. So. It might be chaos magic. Let's go check it out. Why? Why? The devil frowned. What do you mean why? It sounds difficult. I'd rather nap. I have to work. Or I can't pay my rent, but it will be fun. Lucifer sat up pouting. It's been so boring since the last adventure. Let's go. I looked at the devil, who was trying to tempt me out of the house. And then down to the jar in my hand. Sorry, pickles. We are just never fated to be crash. The jar struck Lucifer in the face and smashed into pieces. I sighed as I ran in the opposite direction as fast as I could. Morgan. While Morgan's battle may have ended, her spirit inspires us to keep moving forward. Subscribe to our channel, and let's take action together to explore more of the unknown magical world. Every click of yours marks the beginning of our adventure.